6, we be in the mix with that rare candy paint job on the whip. I need food for the kids, money for the rent. Fuck a lockdown, baby, I can't do that shit. And I don't never vote, cause I'm fucking broke. And either way, I know the police ain't gon' leave me alone. On a plane by to visit Glen Rock, need crypto, told me I should bring the Glock with me. So I packed up my piece and I'm sliding. Cause we might get caught up in a riot. Middle finger Trump, middle finger Biden. Fuck a left, fuck a right, is you riding? Know you love to see it, dudes rocking. Ain't no politics, baby, we just talking. From the birds to the bricks, we be in the mix with that rare candy paint job on the whip. Who you with?
We're blessed again to be joined by a longtime friend of the show, Yeerk P. Yeerk, I'm a little concerned about your country. I don't know what to say. I'm not. Look, people shouldn't throw stones. You know, all those sayings. I'm not. It's really genuine concern. Like the ability for British people to be painfully civil, I guess it is, about matters that are just nothing to be civil about, and being afraid to address honestly just blood meridian horror levels of violence and
that's a good
scary
reference point for describing it, because it is like horrific beyond imagining.
It's a running joke on our show. We're gonna rescue you. We're gonna buy some flights and get you out here. You're not going back, dude. You're not going. Yeah,
espionage.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I mean, yeah, it's hard to see it's hard to see where things are going. It doesn't seem to be going to any place good. But yeah, no, I think it's a kind of like national schizophrenia.
Mm-hmm.
The best way I can describe it. And the sense of outrage that's like directed towards Elon Musk,
dude,
as just like for kind of drawing attention to it,
right?
Is like, I mean, it's kind of cycling out of the like, you know, current thing. It's like it's not quite the sort of like main topic of discourse anymore, which I'm not saying it like has to be, but when it was really going hard like last week, and I was tweeting a lot about it, you know, I felt like I was going fucking crazy.
Me too. Yeah.
Like, you know, because you just see like Labour MPs like booing like calls for there to be an inquiry and saying shame and things like that. And I'm just like, I just don't feel like I'm the same fucking species as these people. Like, it's just not, I can't, like, I'm not trying to clutch my pearls here, but, you know, I feel like I can't, like, relate to it on a human level. I can't, like, understand it.
You've been one of the best. You've been one of the best on this that we've been following. And we had a paid episode yesterday, and I iceberged pretty hard and on the topic. And I listened to the Red Scare where they shouted you out. And I'm not a regular Red Scare listener. I love those gals, you know, but it was a great episode, and it was very it wasn't even that it was very centrist and calm. It was like, hey, this is what's happening, you know, this is and it's crazy that people just freak out on that stuff. And then of course the Neil Gaiman thing comes up, and everyone loses their shit over Neil Gaiman, like smut article in the New Yorker or whatever. And it seriously is like, it's expected, but you still makes you go crazy, right? And that's kind of
to paraphrase the Joker, a sort of like cuddly twee male feminists comic book author getting me to like to paraphrase the Joker. That's like business as usual. Yeah, everybody understands that and has and can kind of, you know,
that's a good way to put it. Yeah, for sure.
Whereas this is something that is kind of, there is no real way to describe it or discuss it without creating just inherently some kind of cracks in, you know, sort of narratives about like the successes of multiculturalism. Mm-hmm. Or whatever. I mean, it's really kind of, you know, people are comparing it to like war crimes and things like that. I don't think that's like an unreasonable comparison to make. And it, you know, unfortunately for the British establishment, there is no non-provocative, safe way to talk about it, you know? And Sorry,
Yeah.
you go.
No, I just mean, conversely, on the other side, you have the I don't know how extreme this really gets because I only see it secondhand from like Americans, and we value our free speech here, but the amount of it that we have that seems to be dwindling and always seems to be, almost
Under
seems to
threat.
be available. It seems to be under threat and also like decided at the ballot box in a certain way. Like this constitutional amendment. Now, when you're talking about this, talking about what you're talking about right now, but then you have people who are like doing hardcore like hate speech stuff. How real is that stuff over there? Like the kind of people that are getting punished.
Oh yeah,
for
getting
what they
2 years
say.
in prison for
Yeah.
tweeting about it or something.
Yeah, people get arrested for tweets and stuff.
Ugh.
People get investigated for
Oh my
tweets.
God.
Ostensibly, it's because sometimes they're like allegedly inciting violence, and you do get the kind of occasional like retard who's like, explicitly saying like go and burn down a mosque or something, which is kind of like hard to defend.
Haven't there been cases of like the dad himself whose daughter was abused?
Yeah.
And they'll be like, no, bro, you can't say that. And then the actual perpetrator got off or something. It's like, what the actual?
Yeah, no, they were arresting like victims for being drunk and disorderly, and arresting parents who went to like confront members of the gangs and stuff like that. But I mean, and then aside from even that, there's always just been, like toughs getting arrested for posting like gender critical tweets and things like that. So, this kind of thing has been kind of going on for a while, and I mean, it's like it makes our country a laughing stock, like so many other things. It's just especially when also then you have like police claiming that they can't like deal with bicycle thefts things like that because it like there was some kind of it wasn't like an official account or something, but a little while ago there was like some like a non-account, but it was the account of a policeman, and he was like sort of non-officially, non-professionally giving his take on things, and he was like trying to argue that like police can't go and like knock on the door of every apartment or every flat to like find someone's bike, even if there's like a GPS tracker kind of thing. So there's just this kind of like Terry Gilliam Brazil like dystopian like bureaucratic incompetence and like indifference towards the public. And then obviously when this was at like the peak of controversy, you also had like the like little parapolitical subset of both the left and right kind of coming up with their own like contrarian takes on it. And the left parapolitical take was that the political correctness played no part in any of this. But their argument for that was that the police have always been indifferent to kind of like working class girls being the victims of trafficking and sex abuse scandals, and that isn't wrong. That's true. And it's true that there's like a kind of there was like clearly a part of it is also this kind of institutionalized misogyny within the police where they're like referring to the victims as like slappers and stuff. But the point is it's like myopic not also to factor in the fact that like political correctness was a framework of power that they are able to appeal to, right? And then also the cover-up doesn't just extend to the police. It's just like a whole culture of denial. It's this whole culture of like national schizophrenia, and academics like Ella Cockbain who are like describing even just the idea of there being a grooming gang or grooming gangs as like a racist trope. The whole point, like someone like her couldn't be further apart from these like fucking retarded policemen. But they're all part of the same like system and culture of denial. They're just like different, like mechanisms within it. And another part of the class dimension of it, which other people have pointed out, I think Red Scare pointed it out, and I think my friend Melly did a really good episode of her show Now Then with Roreg Nationalist talking about it. The class is part of it as well because, acknowledging that grooming gangs exist is perceived to be low class. It's perceived to be like,
Yeah.
middle class British liberals don't want to kind of talk about or address this stuff precisely because it's like threatening to a kind of load bearing support strut of their whole worldview.
Yeah, I know. And like you said, there's always so many factions that have these massive takes where they talk about like the tentacles of all the situations. The tentacle, you don't know how deep this actually goes. I go, well, I don't need it to go that deep. I need you to arrest people that do shit like this and put them in jail for life. Like I'm not asking for any like crazy change. And like you said, maybe, like there's people go, you don't understand. This person with OSS intelligence is doing. I'm like, okay, that's fair.
I'm sorry. That was all like cute and it like during the pandemic when we were all like stuck inside and going crazy, and it was like fun to get into spooky like like Laurel Canyon, what was going on, tracing all of these kinds of connections. But it's like I think some of these people have just kind of like lost the plot. Like they don't have a sense of a wider picture, and it like just being like, well, why aren't people should ask themselves instead why Epstein was able to land the Lolita Express at an RAF? Well, the answer is because obviously there is like, there are elite level pedophile rings that have, we know that already, but like this little kind of fucking granular little, factoid is just this piece of currency that these people like trade amongst themselves. In lieu of actually doing anything useful for anybody,
Well, it's like if you're in your house, right? Say you're in your house and like there's something that's just broken that you can fix, and you might just go like, yeah, but look at the foundation, look at everything in my house is just bad. It's like, yeah, but fix that thing. Like fix that thing. There's people that will dive so deep into this like intentionally unstoppable landslide of a political whatever, I don't know what the term is, but like they will intentionally tangle themselves in that, knowing that a solution can't happen, to where there's certain things that are like point A to point B. It's bureaucratizing the whole thing. Like, like you can point A to point B is the easiest way to solve certain things. And I feel like this issue in Britain, whether it's either the free speech stuff or the, I know that it's not technically free speech, but the and then like the grooming gang stuff, it's like that does feel like something, at least on the surface level, that you could solve overnight.
Yeah, you could solve it by like investigating, arresting.
Like
the other thing is, the other element to it that's annoying is that, especially with the sort of left-leaning parapolitical people, they all have this kind of like, they've all got like kind of their persona from Cantbot from back in the day. So they all do this kind of performative like Anglophobia, where they're like, nuke London, nuke Britain, kind of thing. And they refer to it as like, Jimmy Savile Island or whatever.
Oh, come on.
It's like they're not wrong that it's like a deeply sick, contradicted country, but at the same time, it's like, there were actual victims. It's not like some made up thing. These girls had their lives destroyed. I mean, it's like, I mean, again, not to clutch my pearls, but like, all of this kind of these like tropes of like being a cool parapolitical leftist who knows about like Canadian shipping routes and stuff. It's cute. But this is actually real. This stuff is actually real.
Exactly. No, I mean, again, I've been talking about it lately, but like the movie Red Rooms has like a plot line of that, where it's just like there's this kind of like crisis actor brained like person that needs the answer to be what their conspiracy theory is. Meanwhile, you have women in there talking about their daughters being like hacked apart in the thing, and shit. Like there's kind of this tone of like that could be, we need to understand that could be an AI video or something. And it's like, deep down inside, everybody kind of knows that that's what's happening, and that there's a freak that needs to go to jail for it. I think we overcomplicate everything. And even if you are operating on a premise that might be true, like a big systemic, deep down rooted issue, it's just like that 10, 15 years ago, this wasn't a debate. Like, I mean, maybe I'd say more 15 years ago, because you have the whole Charlie Hebdo thing that was 10 years ago. So maybe that wasn't, maybe that's not the best example, but you know, there was a debate there, I guess. But like 15, 20 years ago, let's just say that much, which isn't, in my opinion, if you zoom out, if you hit the minus magnifying glass a few times, that's not enough time to be like, to change the world organically, in my opinion, to where people process something as, oh yeah, arrest that guy, no penalty is too harsh, that's horrible, everyone agrees, and then to be like, well, what does this say about you if you're bringing this up? Like, what does this say about you if you're focused on this and not Neil Gaiman, you know? Or like, so like, what does this say about you? And that, to me, again, that's 20 years, which is not a long time when you're talking about the span of history for the mentality of human beings, the same species, to get to that point.
Yeah, like the kind of I'm not making any like claim about in particular about like the Neil Gaiman allegations or whatever, but you know, at the height of Me Too, it was like this guy created a hostile work environment or something. You know, and it was all this kind of collapsing of this like spectrum of offenses into one kind of like emergency transgression. And I just think it's really kind of shocking to especially, like, again, this isn't pertaining to Neil Gaiman situation specifically, but when you have like these famous actresses, the resources that they're able to like leverage to focus like national attention on things that they went through relative to these like poor white working class girls in these like bumfuck rural English communities and towns. I mean, not all of them were rural, actually. Some of them were like Oxford, but you know, like those girls had no power to like create a, you know, a culture changing like hashtag social media.
It's not
campaign.
sexy. Yeah, it's not like a sexy. It's not colorful and bright and shiny.
You can't write smut about it. You can't write smut about it in the New Yorker. Yeah,
no.
You can't do that.
And all the leftists fall for the Neil Gaiman thing. Not even say, I'm sure he was an asshole to to his things.
He is a leftist.
But they're all but they're all they're. I swear, it's like a line in the sand. I mean, I think everyone's talking. It's people are so scared to talk about the UK shit. And when it's so clearly worse than anything we've seen thus far, it's been a bit on our show for a while where it's so crazy. You know, if you're using like ball gags on fucking preteens, that's some demonic shit, dude. That's not comparable to taking a shower with a famous author when you're like 25. I'm sorry, it's not.
It's deeply upsetting. It's
and they're all quiet about it, and they're all silent about it. It's scary.
Yeah, because if that's your thing, if that's your number one thing, then you would just be like, well, I'll get to the Neil Gaiman thing later. There's a bigger thing. Like, no, truly, like that's what you would do. You'd go like, you would sift through it organically and be like, well, this looks like clearly a huge issue. Let me look at it. But then the fact is, you see that Elon Musk's name's attached to it. You see right-wing people. You see obviously the racial dynamic of it, and you go, that must be misinformation. And it's like, wow, that is a really, really strange world that we're in. We're going to get you right back to the episode, but I just wanted to let you guys know of a few other things we offer at Rare Candy Industries. We have a Substack with free and paid subscription options. Free subscribers get access to all written content. That includes Bob's Red Pill. That's the best thing going on the internet right now. Trust me. Paid subscribers get full access to our premium episode feed. And that's just every episode we don't necessarily want to share with the general public, if you know what I'm saying. Again, that's rarecandy.substack.com. We also have merch. That link's a little long for me to say right now, but go to the description, go to our merch store, and find a shirt that's right for you. We have Rare Candy shirts, Dr. Bronner soap label shirts, Rishi mushroom shirts, all types of stuff there. Check it out. There's got to be something for you. And lastly, check us out on social media. On Instagram, we're Rare Candy Pod, but on Twitter, we're at Rare Candy Pod 1. All right, enough of that. Let's get you back into the episode. It's strange. It's a world that we're not prepared for, similar to who we're talking about today.
Great segue.
Yeah, there's a nice commercial I put in between, so it's not, it breaks up. But I do I do picture Monsieur Hulot like in these kind of current thing scenarios where like you're walking around and he's trying to put on like a COVID mask and he's like putting it over his eyes and everyone's like no, and like you know, just like I do
running into the glass door.
Running into the giving someone a hug through the plexiglass or something.
Well, I remember like during COVID, at my local coffee shop, they had like a tiny little table like right in front of the door when you come in with like a soap spray on it, and I can imagine like Monsieur Hulot like walking up to it and then being surprised by it and kind of quizzically regarding it for a while.
Yes. No.
That kind of way he does.
Yeah.
Because what he does, and I'll give him his proper introduction to anybody who doesn't know who he is. What he does is, and I've had coworkers like this where like it can be annoying when you have a coworker who like basically doesn't learn how to do like the thing because it's stupid, but also the thing is stupid. That you're teaching them. It's like we used to do something a certain way and you're showing them how to do the new thing and you're doing this completely vestigial dumb like through the motions aspect of something that we used to do really easy, and just watching them struggle with it can kind of red pill you a little bit. You're like, God, that is a really stupid process, like watching somebody struggle with it. And that's kind of like that's like the most reactionary element of Monsieur Hulot, played by Jaques Tati, which I really like. And to set up what we're talking about today, we're talking about a few films, mainly Playtime, I would imagine, by Jaques Tati, which is his magnum opus, which also sank him, which was just really just his one kind of shot at, I would say he succeeded on making a timeless thing. However, he didn't make a timely movie. He didn't really get the rewards of it or anything. In fact, he suffered greatly financially for making it. But nowadays we immortalize it in the Criterion collection as though it's some beautiful thing. But Jaques Tati was a former mime. Way back in the day, I think his family had an ornate frame studio, and he just decided, he was like, I was going to play rugby instead of doing this, which seemed like a very nice, business venture if you were to go into the family business. But he was playing rugby and he was entertaining his buddies as a rugby guy, and he was doing all these like mime stuff, and they were just like, this guy is electric. This is the funniest thing I've ever seen. So he takes that show on the road. He has like these like really funny early shorts where he's like doing these horse riding things that are really like, they're quite like talented. I wouldn't say it's something that like I'd be lying if I said I'm going to sit down and pay a ticket to watch that happen nowadays, but it's like really amazing what he did, like what he was able to do back then when that was what would make people laugh. Like it really was hitting that tone. And he would he made a Joie de Fête. I don't know how to say it. He made a movie there, which but then after that he decided to make Monsieur Hulot's Holiday, which that spans kind of an unofficial 4-movie span, which has Monsieur Hulot's Holiday, Mon Oncle, and Playtime, and Traffic, where you kind of just get the banality of innovation put on display, and this kind of innocent oaf of a man. Though he's really not an oaf. He's actually, everything he's doing is like this really cool motion and has his own rhythm that is not in tune with the banal but kind of beautiful rhythm of the new age technology. So Yeerk, how did you get into Jaques Tati?
So I think, being the basic bitch film taste person that I am, I probably found out about Playtime through reading Roger Ebert's like great movies essays. And then I think I asked her on DVD for Christmas one year for a birthday. Procrastinated watching it for several years. Which is a typical thing that I do. I think I watched half of it with a girlfriend, and then years later, my friend Will started this podcast on SoundCloud called Resident Life Enjoyers.
Yes, yeah, sure.
That I did with him and Blauergeist, Jacob.
Shout out to both those guys. Good.
Yeah.
Will Sampson and Jacob Everett. Yeah, shout out.
Yeah. So I watched it for that, and really enjoyed it. I can't remember, that stuff isn't on SoundCloud anymore, unfortunately. So I can't remember what he said about it.
Well,
So,
we will spiritually pay tribute to that episode in this episode. Therefore, this isn't going anywhere. So yeah,
I may plagiarize myself or
Oh.
either of them because I kind of can't remember whose takes were whose. So that was the last time I watched it, but you know, I enjoyed it so much, and it's such a sort of fascinating, beautiful film. There's so much to say about it. It's so kind of I don't know if encyclopedic is the right word, but there are so many like details. You know, it's not my favorite term to use, but like there are so many Easter eggs in it.
yes.
But that's not even like, it's almost like the point is this kind of like detail that you can pick out from it endlessly and how kind of amusing it is. But it's also just like a masterpiece of style. And I guess in one way in which it is encyclopedic is that it's kind of like an encyclopedia of design. And there is this theme throughout all of the Michio films, which I watched all the others for the first time to prepare for this, of like, you know, the old versus the new, and this kind of gently satirical look at, you know, this kind of wave of like consumer innovation that appears in innovated form. So it's in Mon Oncle, it's the house, the like modern house with this kind of like all mod cons or whatever. In Playtime, it's kind of like that one house has like spread out into this gleaming metropolis.
Everybody copied it. That house was less of a sticking out like a sore thumb, kind of a, like, even in Mon Oncle, there's kind of, you see so much old world Paris, like those, like, it looks like Madeline everywhere, like those little old neighborhoods, and then you see this new kind of Jetsony house, which by the way, I don't know if anybody knew this or not. I'm sure it might be common knowledge to anybody who studies Tati or anything, but I saw somewhere that the guy who I think it's Craig McCracken, the guy who did Powerpuff Girls, that their house is the Mon Oncle house.
I mean, you can totally see that, like that, because it's like those kind of sharp pointed edges, and then the sort of the kind of porthole windows that are like eyes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exactly.
That's a very like Powerpuff Girls kind of look to me.
Yeah, he just straight up admitted, he's like, yeah, that's what I wanted their house to look like. I thought, he's like, I always loved that house. I always thought it was cool, and I just like would love to like kind of put that and like pepper that into a town to like show that there was something kind of different happening at this place.
Yeah, and you can see in Mon Oncle as well, like you can see the kind of boundary lines between this new technological France and then the old picturesque France, which is you kind of see being like torn down. So there's kind of like a poignant note that's sounded in that film when you see the guys like knocking down these picturesque old walls with like pickaxes.
Yeah. No, it's great. The and like you said, then you get to Playtime. Playtime is basically like, you know, just to contextualize it, like picture that you didn't leave your house for like 3 years and you went out to like the new world after, you know, big box stores are now empty, or not empty, but they're just something completely different. Now, Tati's Playtime is much more beautiful than what we see as like innovation. It's actually like even the kind of like NPC world that he's navigating is kind of nice compared to a lot of the stuff that we see. You know, we don't have like vagrants like, you know, shitting everywhere on the streets in Jaques Tati's Playtime. Like there's a lot.
Yeah,
there's
we
not
have
much crime.
Beau is Afraid is like
yeah, true.
Because everything that happens now just feels like Beau is Afraid. You know?
Yeah, exactly. But no, for my genesis with this, I gotta give a shout out to a Twitter account. I haven't interacted with them in a while. I hope they're doing well and everything. But Impossible Princess back in the day, very good Twitter account. Yeah, this was. I'm talking. I'm like, I don't hide that I don't know anything about film, like, because I'm. It's just not my area of expertise. I just want to watch more good movies, so I will just post like, recommend me a movie. So I did back in the day, like I think it was probably 2020, 2021 when I first really got into like the sphere of Twitter. I just said, can someone recommend me like a cool movie or something? And she put Playtime, and I was like, okay, I've never heard of that. I looked at it and I go, oh wow, it's a kind of a, like, you already from like the stills that you see, you're like, that looks really vibrant and cool. So I put it on and I'm just entranced. I mean, it had the vibe of like I've talked about this before, but like just those like Reddit satisfying videos, like of just kind of like
Yeah, it does,
perfectly zesting like a bar of soap or something. Like it's just it's very satisfying. You're seeing the, you know, from that first scene where, you know, there's that airport, that immaculately clean airport, and you see the mannequin in the background. Oh, it's not a mannequin, that's a person. It's like the first thing that moves. You're like, oh, okay, this isn't like a showroom. This is actually people existing, but nobody seems to be doing anything. There's a guy looking for stuff to clean, but there's nothing to clean. And you're just immediately like taken aback. And I'm somebody who doesn't watch Buster Keaton, Charlie Chat. I don't watch, this is not like my style of film. Like I'm heavy on dialogue and script and plot and a lot of that. Like I prefer those in my movies, but this had that tuning fork 432 hertz thing that just immediately wrapped me up in it. And I've probably watched it 7 or 8 times since. I bought the Criterion box set when it went on like a flash sale of all of his stuff, which has a lot of really good special features. You have Terry Jones from Monty Python introducing Playtime on there. It's really, really, that's on YouTube too. You can find it. It's really nice. But Sai, I'd like to know, you were completely, you didn't know what this was at all. So tell me about first putting it on. Tell me about what from what I said about it versus what you saw, you know.
It's funny watching something where you can tell you've seen the first and second derivatives of it later on, you know, and it's something so familiar, but you know you've never seen it before, right? And it's weird. It is kind of, I love how it's like, you know, the boilerplate thing is that it's kind of dystopian.
Yes.
And it is, but it's also so whimsical and airy, you know, and kind of, you know,
it's not
obviously
cynically, it's not cynically dystopian, which is
it's not cynical. No, it's not. And also looking at the world we're in today, it's like kind of sick. You're like, wait, hang on, that was actually, you know, I don't know. That's kind of my vibe that I got from it. But I mean, you know, we were talking about low res with Mario. And I remember saying that it's like, I don't know how anyone makes a movie. Just it's insane. It's an insane act of creativity and doing it all, and also no guarantee at the end. And this is like that times 100. It's like, how the fuck and obviously it ruined him. So I mean, that's how. But this is insane. It's just insane. The 70 millimeter shots, the city that they built from scratch, just like a hyper realistic city, right? Every aspect of it is just
like eyes wide shut level, like set building, like back in 1967. And you're talking about the you know, the risk that you take, and it's just like I'm not built for that. I'm not built to work on something for years and years and spend, I think they said what, like 13 million francs on the which is insane. You know, insane for a movie back then, for a film that again doesn't have a lot of dialogue, doesn't have like the traditional plot that you would think to have, and it's almost seemed doomed to fail, but also destined to be timeless. Which again, if you're telling the Minister of Culture in France that that's your business plan, you're not going to spend 13 million francs on it. They're not, you won't get the money to make that. That is not a good profit motive. And Tati shot this movie, I think I think he shot it in English and French, if I'm not mistaken. And then he was hoping for this to be his big American breakthrough kind of crossover thing, and US was like, nah, we're good. They didn't even buy it. So it was all of this kind of like, the world, you know, it's kind of Monsieur Hulot. Like, it's like the world will understand when I show them. And then it's like, no, the world doesn't understand. Everyone's just going to look at you as like, what the hell is that guy? You know, what is this, like Mr. Bean ass? Like, I mean, it's not really Mr. Bean at the time, but like this kind of
see the influence on Mr. 100%. Bean though. I mean, like, I think Mr. Bean's Holiday, like you know, that I think is a direct allusion to Monsieur Hulot's Holiday. The only difference is that Monsieur Hulot is like charming and entertaining and not repellent.
Well, no, and exactly, and you know, so Tati he was on this upward trajectory. Like Mon Oncle ended up being a pretty big hit, right, for what it was, and I think he won an Oscar for something, I like a foreign language Oscar, something like that. But he got the like Oscar experience, and you know, you had the opportunity to meet, you know, the biggest at Brando, all these people in like the 50s if you wanted to, and he wanted to hang out with like Buster Keaton and like the old school like silent film comedy era and stuff. And so he was just kind of obsessed with that world. However, you know, in 1967, by the time Playtime's made, right, you're coming off of Mon Oncle, you're like, I'm making this massive film. I'm expanding it. It all sounds good on paper. However, film is just not at that point. I mean, we're almost getting near like Bonnie and Clyde. This is what's like selling in America, and just completely different new Hollywood stuff. In a perfect world, we'd love it all to exist and be able to see all of that. But that's just not the way these things work. And I think he went completely penniless. His whole inheritance that he was going to get was squandered on this. Houses were lost off of it. I mean, it was like a crypto scam that this guy went through, in a sense, like to make this movie. Like he just went all in, and like in a way it's martyrdom, you know what I mean? Like because I love it, and I can put this movie on at any time. It's a feel-good movie for me, even though it kind of reminds me of things I don't like that we've done with our world. I still, again, it's not cynical, which I think is what, obviously the aesthetics of it are great, but the lack of cynicism in describing kind of in keeping the humor in describing our kind of useless innovation for the sake of innovation is
it's
really
nice.
great.
You can kind of watch it like an aquarium. It's fairly
yeah, good call. Mm-hmm.
It's fairly kind of like calm and gentle, and it's amusing. It's it's like delightful.
Yeah.
There's nothing violent or hostile about it. It's just, it is a kind of very like pleasant viewing experience. It's long. It's kind of like
yeah.
I mean, I feel like I've been in like a kind of like Jaques Tati jail, because I
yeah.
I like last minute watched Traffic and then Playtime back to back today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like the kind of lack of plot and the sort of fluid progression of everything across these movies is sort of it's hard to like maintain a level of attention. But then they're so kind of like rewatchable.
Yes.
There's no way you can kind of get everything in on a first viewing,
No, I'm still noticing things, like fun things. And like you said, it's like you're watching it like you're watching like kind of the like a Swiss watch, like underneath a Swiss watch. You're watching like you can watch in the background, you're just seeing people coming in and out of doors. All of that movement is calculated. And just to get back to like the budget and really, like I said, none of this is a smart business venture that he's doing. I mean, it's like really dumb. Like when you think about it, if you were to explain this to somebody,
explain it in words, like
to finance brain people, like they're just like, that sounds horrible. And because nobody's going to respect the fact that you went in and did all the sound in post-production, including like reaching for something and having the fabric rub in your jacket rub, which in Mon Oncle before, that's one of the best parts of the movie, is when he's like looking in the new like Jetsons kitchen that they have, and you can hear his jacket just like that. It's just, that stuff is really funny, but that probably doesn't land to like a normie audience a lot of times. But to be fair, in the theaters, you get like his sound is like panned super crazy and stuff. And like, if you have like maybe, I don't know if I don't have a sound bar, but perhaps it comes that way on a sound bar, on a TV or something. But all of this stuff is just truly a labor of love. And, I love that he went into it like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, like almost like Naomi Watts' Mulholland Drive, like opening stuff.
Oh
like,
yeah, it's heroic. It's a beautiful achievement. It's a beautiful like achievement of film, of cinema. And it's sad that he kind of paid so much for it, but we're all lucky that we can. Sorry, this sounds like kind of like closing words.
Yeah, I know. We're gonna get to the individual funny parts, but this is just Playtime as a general. Yeah, go ahead. But yeah, it starts. I mean, one of the first gags. I talked about the airport scene, but those are just there's Monsieur Hulot, which I didn't even pick up the first time I watched it, that he's supposed to be like leading this tour group. Like technically he's supposed to be like leading the tour group.
No, I didn't know that either.
Yeah, I guess. No, if you look up, I literally looked up the plot summary and I was like, oh, I've seen this movie, no joke, 7 or 8 times. I'm like, oh, I guess I thought he was just kind of like not one of them, because you get on that bus, like right where there's that gag with the bus where they're all dressed like him, like Inspector Gadget clothes and stuff, like and but there you have the
Oh,
part.
is that what leads to that guy being like, I am not Hulo?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
that British guy.
At the airport, they're looking for their tour guide for the
What are you
American,
talking about?
which is
Yeah.
hilarious. Couldn't think of which that's the gag, right? We couldn't think of a dumber tour guide for a guy who doesn't even understand the innovations in his own city. And it's kind of funny because these people are going on a tour, right? These Americans, it's a classic like trope of Americans, and where like I know people who go on vacation that will go to like nice places either inside the US or outside the US where like you think you'd want to like get the culture of the place, but these people will go eat at like the Cheesecake Factory.
Oh,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? In Alaska or something like
Mhm.
like they'll there's it kind of has the tourists have that vibe, except for the one Barbara woman who's kind of a romantic for spontaneous fun and old world aesthetics and stuff. The first big gag though that I love, Terry Jones talks about this on the intro to Playtime, is where they're the doorman who I love the doorman, the little small old doorman. He's the workman is asking him for a light, and then they realize they're both standing outside of the glass because everything's just switching into glass. He's like, oh shit, you actually have to come in the building and light the and light my cigarette. And I love the whole like dystopian Terry Gilliam Brazil like office hallway stuff with that. We've all been there.
Yeah.
And like and just the idea he's not protesting anything. He's not a radical, Monsieur Hulot. He just kind of doesn't understand it, and it highlights it for everybody. And that's kind of my favorite type of person, is the person who, when you're like in an argument with somebody and instead of like engaging with somebody who's not operating in good faith, you kind of just almost Socratically like ask them to like defend their position, or kind of like, why? But really? That's something like you almost, I mean, we might be acting as though we're doing that, but Monsieur Hulot is kind of just not understanding the world. And it kind of, if everybody goes along with this new thing, it's easy to implement. But if he's just like, why are we pressing all those buttons? Why do I have to wait for this guy to walk all the way down the hallway to come talk to me? This like long forever hallway. Those parts are really like touching to me.
Go ahead.
Sorry, you go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, what's the part where is it the like the president or the famous guy that they're mogging when he gets off the plane in the first part, and then he's walking down the hall, and just, this is totally random, but the attention to detail where his like boarding pass or his luggage ticket is spinning in a circle like a fishing lure in a river.
Yeah,
like what did they do that on purpose? Like what the fuck?
Yeah, everything's on purpose.
Like that's insane. It's just going. Yeah. Anyway, that's totally random. But yeah.
No, yeah, I love all of those kinds of details. The way
wild.
that I will be drawn to some kind of little spinning thing, like the thing it really, like, these films will really remind me of is when I was a kid, we'd get these like Usborne puzzle books, which would be like this really beautiful, detailed 2-page spread, like cartoon of a railway station or a ski resort or a shopping center or something like that. And then it would be like, you'd have a list of like little games or puzzles to solve. Like, there are like 4 red monkeys hiding in this jungle scene. Can you find them, or something like that? And these films are kind of like that. It's sort of like, if there's a light switch on screen, anywhere, you should pay attention to it, because it might do something, or someone might try and do something with it whilst other things are happening. If there's like a little window on screen, you should pay attention to it, because someone, like a face, might peer out of it. There's no like detail that isn't kind of interactable in some way, or that won't do something if you look at it long enough. But at the same time, it's all kind of random, so you might look at a light switch and wait for something to happen, and be waiting for like 4 minutes while other things, well, not really 4 minutes, but like, you kind of can't predict what will change or move or spin or extend or flip or open or close when. And it's not really about character, or it's not about dialogue or character or storyline at all. It's about the pure kind of like visual play of looking at all of these things and looking at the kind of composition of them, which is why it's called Playtime.
Yeah, and you have the another thing that's really cool about it all is like the invention kind of like expo, which again, it's funny, you're taking these people, these American women mostly, and then they're taking them, do we want to go see the Eiffel Tower? Again, you have when Monsieur Hulot's in that kind of office building thing, he looks out at old world Paris a little bit and it's covered in smog, and all you can see is the Eiffel Tower just kind of a little bit obstructed by smog, which is very telling how
there's that, and Barbara looking, I think it's Barbara who is looking at the reflection of the Eiffel Tower in the window is really, really moving.
Which Mon Oncle is kind of like that too. It's just you constantly getting like glimpses, and more so in Mon Oncle and then less so in Playtime as the world progresses and innovation takes hold. And but they take these women, and like, again, do you want to, why wouldn't you want to go see all of these, tourist attractions, all of these really cool things? No, they go to like this, they go to Paris to find innovations, and you even hear the woman go, "Hey guys, hurry up, they even have American stuff here." And there's just a really funny gag to that, where people just go there to see things, to get reminders of home rather than to be immersed in like a really cool culture that doesn't really exist anywhere else. That is,
and I think the airport has like images of all these different countries, and they all have the same like identical skyscraper.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Which it always reminds me of have you guys seen The Holy Mountain, the Jodorowsky movie?
No, I haven't.
Oh, there's like a kind of there's like a creepy model of a skyscraper in that, where it's just like stacked coffins, so it's an even more kind of extreme and like mean-spirited version of the same satirical point. But
yeah, there's the and then you're later introduced to the Monsieur Hulot has like an old friend or something that he meets on the, I forget if he meets on the bus or something. Again, if I'm getting the plot wrong, you're watching for a million different things. You don't even really understand that. There's not a lot of close-ups at all.
It's almost impossible to trace over like an extended viewing period.
Yes,
2 movies, the like precise nature of Hulot's meetings and encounters with people.
Yeah. Oh, I know. So he has this like old friend, I guess, from like the old days, where whatever, and he has this new age of this kind of swanky new apartment where it is so insane about about how much of a metaphor, and I doubt even Tati could even imagine what that metaphor actually is for nowadays. But the houses where they just have everything's glass, you can see right through it, it's all transparent, and it's just families kind of talking, and anybody outside can just see what they're doing, which kind of brings you to the point of like social media. It's like there are people that just literally stay in their apartment all day but broadcast their thoughts to the world, let people in on their life, and everything is exposed and everything is up for like public consumption. And it kind of is a beautiful metaphor for that. I love the housing scene, and it's like silent.
It's wonderful. It's also the kind of there's the sort of gentle like satirical aspect of Playtime, which is about like this satire of like globalization and the irony of like consumer goods that have all these kind of complicated features end up being more trouble than they're worth, like the camper car in Traffic, or the kitchen in Mon Oncle. But Playtime, the thing that's interesting about Playtime is that it's also kind of like the neoliberal paradise, where it's just beautiful and calm and sleek, and it is kind of appealing, and it's sort of like the world has been kind of transformed into, I guess, what became known as like Tatyville, this like futuristic city, and that includes these apartment buildings where people are kind of again on display like fish tanks, and that's also fun in a kind of like children's book like side cross way, when you like have a children's book and you can see the inside of the space shuttle. But like,
shout out Scott, box sets. That's fair. Scott core,
but like the utopian aspect of it is that these people are like completely on display, but it doesn't matter because they have nothing to hide, and they are enjoying these like perfectly kind of civil, genteel bourgeois lifestyles
Yeah.
you know, having conversations and watching television and stuff, and like that kind of sort of way of like socially relating to, you know, it's like it's completely I'm not saying like Tati is kind of arguing this through the film, but it's just part of the vision of it that
Yeah.
like there is no kind of Freudian unconscious, there's no like weird sexual perversion, there's no death drive, there's no like kind of like people playing power games with each other or whatever. It's
Right.
just this pure like transparency.
Yeah. No one has
where
anything to hide.
no one
It's
has
not.
anything to
It's
hide.
not
Yeah.
worth spying on them, which is kind of what you would hear from like a liberal nowadays. Like you're saying,
Yeah.
like you would just be like, "Well, you have nothing to hide, so I can spy on you."
Yeah.
You know, it's just kind of funny. Now you when we were DMing about this, you had said something. It's kind you play
I was
with
going
this-
on at you for ages.
yeah, well, yeah, I have nothing to do right now, so yeah, I have time. I have time. Either that, or I hop into I hop into way worse conversations. Let's just say that much. You talked about playing with this as though you would play with like a Tony Hawk Underground or Tony Hawk Pro Skater level, and that's exactly what it is. Like it's I mean, to be honest, it should have been a playable level. If it was more of a hit movie, I wish it would have been a playable level in Tony Hawk.
Yeah, can you imagine how good that would be? Like the unlockable.
You could hit all the cubicles if you grind all the 50-50, all the cubicles circular and hop them from one to one into a combo.
I was thinking even in Mononcle when there's that like weird staircase, there's like this the banister is just this like rail.
Yeah, the letter K over the fish spurting water would be sick. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh no, absolutely. Yeah, I mean like there's so much like grindable material in in these movies, and it's just like the way that, you know, like I always remember in like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, you know, you grind the like molten bucket in the foundry level to make it fall down. You could like trigger the earthquake in Los Angeles by grinding on a specific rail. And then Tony Hawk's Underground and Underground 2, they kind of had this jackass thing, but they were really like taking that dynamic of like causing chaos and building the game around it. And like, yeah, I immediately think of, because you just get this sense as well of people just flowing through an environment. There's no real sense of I mean, there are kind of these bookends to the movie, like the restaurant sequence and then the like car ballet. But like, aside from that, there's no real sense of beginning, middle, or end. There's just this kind of, so it feels like video gamey in the way that like when you're in it, you're just roaming around a level, you kind of lose sense of time. But then also it's just the way that like, again, the environment is like full of all these like little interactable buns and nodules and levers and all kinds of things, you know. And then the other way in which it's like a video game is I don't know if you've ever played any of those like tower defense flash games.
No.
Where like there was one where there would be like, you had a tower, it was side scrolling, there was a tower, and then these little stick figures are like walking towards the tower to attack it. And what you do is like use the mouse cursor to like drag them into the air and like throw them off screen. And gradually more and more of them come. So you like, you know, like this is a good analogy for what watching the film was like, because you know, it's like with every shot that's on screen, it's like there's only so much detail that you can kind of take in before the next shot comes along. You know, I don't know, maybe this isn't a good analogy, but it's just like there's you have a certain time limit where you can like pick out all of the little things going on, and then the next scene comes along, right?
Yeah, and like the restaurant scene, right? Like the restaurant, I mean, you could spend, I mean, that ends up being half of the film basically is in a restaurant. Like it
feels that way.
Every time I rewatch it, I forget how, and this is it's great. It should be
the best part.
It's the best part. I just forget how much of the film is takes place in a restaurant. Now you start seeing the satirical part of everyone just watching like glass being methodically placed in while the band is playing, because they're building this restaurant, and everyone in this beautiful historic city of Paris that's had culture upon culture on culture, everyone stops to go watch a restaurant get built, which is kind of funny. And then the arrows, the very COVID arrow stuff of showing everyone where to go, like the grocery store arrow things, those were pretty funny. And there's gag upon gag upon gag. You got guys, the fish gag, fantastic. And the broken door where the doorman's like, well, I guess I'll just pretend there's a door here. Just the idea, the commentary on all the glass is very funny, especially because where I live in the Bay Area, everything became made out of glass, apparently, like in the last 15-20 years. So that part is really funny. But I love the restaurant. Again, another post-COVID thing is restaurants being worked on while you're eating in them, exposed air ducts, all of this stuff, and then them being out of everything that you're there to consume, being out of sole, filet mignon, and all that stuff. And they're like, "Do you have cold dishes?" All we have is cold dishes. Which I love. And but yeah, the restaurants. I want to get your opinion on the restaurant stuff with the chair backings.
It was actually I didn't expect. I was resigned to it being what this movie already was up until that point. I was like, oh, this is cool. I could rock another hour of this. And then the restaurant thing really surprised me. It kind of is the culmination of it. Everyone's letting loose. It gets wild. More and more crazy, less kind of conservative people come in wearing brighter colors. Right. It's really interesting. Yeah. And and the soundtrack, right? The music itself, that weird like Cuban beat with the black jazz guys doing it, even though I know it's all overlaid on, it's not like real music or whatever, right? But I just thought that was funny. Yeah. And then the girl being like, someone's got to start dancing, and then they're the first ones to break the ice, and then it's just this like giant party. And it's opulent. It's kind of reminded me of when we had Jack on with the what's the movie, the Chinatown, not Chinatown, but the movie.
That was when we were on his show. That was Year of the Dragon.
Year of the Dragon. Yeah,
great episode.
Yeah, I think where it's where it's just, I don't know. I am nostalgic for when you could go to like some opulent ass restaurant and not have to. I don't know. This movie, it made me kind of. I know it's supposed to be like a neoliberal hellhole kind of thing, but whatever we have now, where all that stuff is broken down and it looks gross and ugly, is way worse. And I'm like a hippie. I'm like a return hippie type, so I'm down to live in the woods and not have any of this shit. But it's like, at least back then it was like clean and functioning, even if it was confusing and weird.
No, the restaurant is really beautiful, and it reminds me of these like really hazy early childhood memories of like going to the Barbican when I was a little kid. The Barbican is like this big kind of brutalist structure in London, where there are shows and the cinema, and there are also apartments and fountains and things like that. The kind of grandeur of it, and then the opulence inside, all the like red carpet and like golden handrails and all that kind of stuff. And seeing jazz bands there again when I was very, very, very small. Just the I don't know, like the like I don't know how to describe it. Like it tickles some kind of very, very like early childhood sensory experiences. And I feel that probably also like early experiences of being in like art galleries or airports, restaurants again.
Those times when you're not going to, like when you're a kid and you're not there to experience what your parents are experiencing, minus like the food.
Exactly.
But there's so much other shit to do. Like there's like a cool plant that you can like look at, or like just a dumb like I was an only child, so I didn't even have like brothers and sisters to play like games with, so I really had to like just find something in the scenery to like lock in on.
These details that as you grow up just become mundane and uninteresting when you're a kid, that they kind of hit you with this like psychedelic intensity. You see, like, I mean, the other day I was like on a walk, and there happened to be like a mother with her little boy walking in front of me, and the boy was like trailing his hand along these railings. And I was like, that's a really like kind of tatty kind of thing, because that's what the characters in all these movies are doing, is like interacting with their environment in this like tactile with this kind of sensory curiosity that you only
Yeah.
really have when you're a kid. And it actually, it's like we just see that and you're like, oh, that's like little kid behavior. That's the kind of thing they do. But it kind of makes sense for like an organism to that's like developing and growing to do stuff like that, right? To like, explore the affordances of the environment. And so you actually can find, entertainment from like trailing your hand along the rails of a fence or something when
I
you're
know
a kid.
exactly what you mean. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was that kid. I think Glenn was too. Yeah, based on what you just said, and it's really, that's all I got. Yeah,
Also,
Well,
being on a long car journey and like leaning your head against the window in this kind of sleepy state, and then like looking at like lampposts going by.
Oh yeah, those like bus scenes, like especially the final shot of like looking at the cool lights. I'm like, God, that is such a like exactly that same thing popped in my head. Is just kind of like a memory of being bored that sucked at the time that I love now.
Yeah.
Like it's weird.
Yeah,
It's just
a
weird.
Exactly.
The bus scene was very weird for it's just because it's the most alien. It's the end, obviously, and it's movement that only exists in that scene. It almost seems like it's from a different film or something. And I don't know. It's a totally, because it's not cubicle. It's not, it's weird. I don't know. It was because you're just so locked into this film the whole time, right? And then that kind of throws it for. I mean, it's obviously intentional what he was doing,
Well, one of my favorite scenes too is like when he exits I know we're jumping around, but like because I definitely still have plenty more to say about the restaurant. But there was when he exits his buddy's house, the new neoliberal open curtain glass house, he looks, there's that scene of Monsieur Hulot on the street where he's just looking up at all the buildings. He's like, fuck, everybody lives like that. Like everybody has one of these little square things, and they're all just like and just the constant like square, like kind of perfect. It's kind of like this like the banality of perfection, I guess, like is like squaring everything perfectly. No human flaws. You even go back to the ancient Greek trash can at the beginning.
Yeah.
I love those.
The
Doric column trash can.
Yeah, and you just see like that light where it's like we see this beautiful scene of like moving gears on like a Swiss watch on the inside of all these people moving, but then on the outside when it pans out, you just see a light just of like an elevator just going through room to room. It's kind of cool. Like it's cool and gives you like a. He's constantly zooming in and zooming out, but yeah, with the restaurant, I do love the like kind of chauvinist kind of flamboyant American guy. He's great. He's a real.
I love how when you first see him, you think he's going to be the victim of this kind of like snooty European contempt from the movie. I mean, if you don't know Jaques Tati and you don't know that his films essentially like have this essentially good-natured tone, which they do, then you might expect that. You might expect him to kind of become like a figure of contempt, but actually he becomes like the life of the party and everybody loves him and he's kind of cool.
Yeah, when the thing, I mean, so like, you have the change ups in the music. You have, like you said, you have that like Afro-Cuban, almost like elevator-y kind of music that's meant to just be this ambient setting. Again, it seems quite nice. Nobody's getting their food. You have the guy who's constantly seasoning the fish and preparing the fish, which is
touching the food.
Kind of excruciating.
It is.
I think that I come from a very particular like class niche in the UK where you have this like interest in European culture and stuff, so you chuckle along to the good-natured humanism of like Jaques Tati's Playtime, but there's also this kind of like screaming Mark Corrigan inside you that's like like suffering watching watching these people not get their fish, and like all the waiters kind of like bumping into people and stuff.
Oh, I know. Yeah, it's funny because like you have like there's that one scene where the guy's just like standing near a pillar holding the thing, and the guy's like, "Are you gonna like serve that food?" And he's just like starts staring at him. And it's
the Gordon Ramsay kitchen nightmares.
I know. Yeah. It is great. It is great. And there's the other one too. I guess what I was getting at is you have the change up in the music. which you then start getting this like free form, like almost like bebop, like kind of jazz that comes in, really upscale jazz tune, and everybody starts getting up and dancing. You're seeing you're seeing kind of like a return to primal nature of humans, where like
it's like a kind of temporary autonomous zone type thing, which is a kind of trope that I don't tend to like when you have a European movie where people are like all staid and conservative, and then like some hippies come and they have like a party and everybody like cuts loose. Right. But
yeah,
this isn't really. This is more just like the kind of complexity of everything, all the procedures that make up the restaurant as a social space.
Yeah.
Like everything becoming too complex and overloaded so that it breaks down, and then this more like spontaneous.
Yeah. And it's followed by Barbara, the woman, playing on the piano. Now you have the great gag, maybe one of my favorite ones, maybe the best one is the weird structure. I don't even know what that is. I don't even know what the architectural term for it is. The wooden thing breaks.
The bit of the ceiling falling down.
Yeah, the bit of the ceiling falling down, and they're like, we'll fix that right now. And the American guy's like, this is awesome. I'm in the VIP now. This is incredible.
Yeah, he creates like a nightclub within the
And that's like the selling point to him is he hated this, like not hated, but like there's like this open air. You would like to think he's kind of like in a big wig in America, almost like the boss from Psycho or something. Like you would kind of think he's like this like a big wig, but he's like, oh, this is perfect. I wanted my own kind of like, sitting right by the stage of the band, private bottle service kind of situation. And then you have Barbara who gets on the piano, and that's like a callback to a time. And if you ever hear about like old people, like the way they used to party is like somebody would just get on the piano and they would just get blackout and sing together.
Yeah.
And that was like the party. And it's kind of, like I said, you get the jazz where everybody's building up, and it becomes less of a trope because the music slows down and becomes more grassroots and just people singing at a party. And that's when everybody's having fun. There's drinks being served. Ironically, the structure falling and creating this VIP zone made the restaurant more, and I hate this word, but inclusive. Everybody just came in. It's not, the guy didn't want it to himself, but he wanted to invite people somewhere. Like he was like, no, come in. It's all good. This is mine. This is my room.
Well, it's inclusive if you have the chair imprint.
Yeah,
that's like the price of an admission.
Mark of the beast.
Mark of the chair.
You have that chair imprint and stuff. It's really funny. I also love the other part too. Is the restaurant's constantly under construction, and there's all this work that needs to be done. This like forever construction because you constantly need to be innovating. But they're telling all the people to hide, and you have like that kid who's like scaling the balcony, maybe cleaning glass or doing something, and the guy's like, get out of here, like it's just
the classic kind of like Playtime viewing experience is that a character suddenly appears and you pick up from what they're doing that they've been on screen before doing something, but you miss them, and now they're here in your field of view, and you're like, where did you come from? What was your importance? Or it's like the resumption of a plot line that like disappeared ages ago, as if it's just like, and it's just been going on in the background the entire time, and you're like, oh, is that again?
Yeah. Oh no, it's so fun. And then you have that great scene when all the it's literally jazz music stops, like the meme, like it just stops, and there's people in that like pharmacy, which I thought the pharmacy looked really cool. Like
the pharmacy looks amazing.
It looked amazing where they're just eating off the tray because nobody really actually ate anything at the restaurant. They're eating desserts. I think
they're eating, and they're all those like luminescent plastic looking kind of like dark city food, like the like the key lime pies and stuff, like all like these bright plastic greens and reds.
Yeah, like dollhouse food. Like it doesn't look like real, and they're just eating it in the pharmacy. But like the party doesn't want to stop. But it kind of seems, because we in America we're all taught that like in Europe everybody just parties until like they sleep from 7 to 9 p.m. and then wake up and have dinner at like 11 and then like party till like 4 a.m. And whether that's true or not, it's not really important to me. But you have you can tell that Paris was meant, and this is another kind of like COVID parallel, is like Paris, you can tell, or France, Tativille or whatever, was meant to shut down at a certain time. You have the guys that are working in the street that are like, wait, is that somebody walking right now? And like in the morning, but you can tell it was like once a city where people just did that, and it was like a fun nightlife thing. But just this idea of this kind of swanky neoliberal restaurant falling apart kind of brought back the old guard a little bit, which it's just it's really charming.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's also like when the characters leave the restaurant and it's suddenly dawn and the sky's turning light again.
Yeah.
You do feel like the sense of like you feel like you've been out all night as well.
Yeah.
Like it makes me feel sleepy.
Yeah. Gosh, so fun. It's so fun.
I think the restaurant is a great kind of satire of like again in a very good natured, benign way, but it's a very good satire of what we now think of as like social engineering. And it uses the restaurant because it's like there are kind of no deep stakes attached to it because it's this purely kind of like social thing. But you can see from the design of the restaurant how so much of it is supposed to kind of guide behavior in certain ways or like fit into certain like specific procedures. Like I think there's one bit where there's a waiter who won't serve some people who are like 4 tables aren't being served, but he's like in another area and he doesn't want to serve them because it's like his area, but there are no customers in his area. But then also like the red neon arrow on the like overhanging bit. It's very funny when the drunk guy just gets like hypnotized into going inside. But like, and then there's just like the complexity of a restaurant as like a space where there like waiters need to take orders, people need to make drinks, all of this kind of stuff, and it's like this sense of it being kind of overloaded, but also like the chairs begin leaving marks in people's backs. The fish on the tray where there's this like ritual that needs to be gone through of like seasoning it and then setting it aflame, and the waiters keep doing part of it and then getting distracted and then like just leaving it, and then another waiter will come along and take it up. The fish kind of becomes like this strange console that they're like working at to no effect. And then also like the passivity of the people in the restaurant, like the guy who's just sitting there watching his fish and not being like, can you serve this to me?
That's not about the food. I mean, it's one of those places like you hear about that from a lot of like nowadays, especially like when you're into like ultimate like foodie like YouTube mode, like it's so much. It's like people will make these massive burgers that have like an egg, a Hershey bar coming out of it, and like and then like a pint of bourbon like it's swimming in and stuff, and they're like, and it's for someone to take a picture of it. It's for someone to see the process, and you're like, damn, dude, like. Remember when you used to be served like really good food at a nice restaurant or something, or even a not nice restaurant? And
I think those like that 1970s looking plate of fish looks kind of.
I love a bronzino,
nice.
Dude. Oh my gosh, it looked fantastic. That's the excruciating part of it. The fish looks good.
It's good.
I would love to see how you're daring you want a guy to just put a knife into that thing and start tearing it apart.
Oh, so much. I mean, the other thing is like the way the characters kind of like start dancing because music starts playing reminds me of kind of like The Sims.
Yes, my wife said that. That's exactly what I said.
That's a lot of Sims.
You just have music playing and then characters are like, oh, how about do dancer, blah blah, and get up and start dancing because
there's no word. It's like the word you like it fades off like and like the sound. You're like, oh, they didn't have good dubbing technology. It's like, no, it's meant to just be hearing things in passing where you don't hear the full sentence. You hop in at a conversation and but it doesn't matter. There's that part too. Where it's kind of a bookend part of the movie is, you have the Barbara, the woman who, like I said, she stands out a little bit. She kind of is like a pairing to Hulo to suggest that there is this type of person all over the world that isn't fighting anything, but is kind of just like, that's weird how the world works now. And she's trying to take that picture of the florist, where that's like the most color that you see in that town. It's just all the flowers. This woman who's seemingly from old France, and she wants to take her picture.
Sorry to interrupt you, but did you see in the restaurant scene? Did you see the bit where there were all these ladies with like wearing hats with flowers on them, and then the guys coming over and pouring
Yes.
pouring drinks.
What
I
a
love
beautiful,
that so much.
what a beautiful
Yeah.
shot that is too. Like, and I'm not one of those like this shot. Like, I think that gets beat to a pulp in a movie. But like there's just like, yeah, you have like the planter box, and then above that their hats, and then you have a guy pouring it, and you can't see glasses anymore, and it's like this guy like watering plants.
It's so great. Yeah,
It's
sorry
great.
to interrupt.
No, but then the
Mention of
florist scene,
flowers.
she's trying to get that like perfect picture, but there's always just this like new kind of like Paris like frat boy punk people listening to music. There's just a guy. I love there's just like a bumbling like fool tourist guy who's like and he just comes up. She's like, get out of the picture. And like it's kind of akin to like the fish part where you're like, just take the picture, just take the damn picture, you know. But it's not. And then at the end, you know, or you have the military guy who wants to take their picture, and that kind of ruins the vibe of it. But then at the end, she wants, you know, you go back to that florist, you know, at the end. It's kind of just these reminders of the old world that you get.
Well, the other thing is that, like, you know, you can easily see the like Buster Keaton, Charlie Chaplin influence on all of the Monsieur Hulot films. And I think that, you know, then the restaurant scene gets pretty like kind of raucous. But there's from the way that people talk about these movies, you could get the misconception that they're like full of action and stuff.
Yes.
And actually they're kind of boring,
yes.
like in a good way. Like there's actually a lot of this, the action that's going on is like a very, very small scale. Like, again, it's just like little buttons being tapped to make a small thing open or something. You know, it's like, it's not like people are doing these kind of wild stunts. Like, you won't see like the front of a house falling on someone and then they like stand through one of the windows or something,
holding the doorknob, like, oh man.
Yeah. Like, you'll get a lot of stuff where it's like the doorman, like well, not the doorman, but like the person that Monsieur Hulot is supposed to be meeting in the beginning, like walking down that like really, really, really long hallway, and you just have to kind of sit and like wait for the guy to to like come closer towards you. And it's kind of like there's just this interest in like you become very conscious of like the corridor as a medium.
The space
something
of it,
like that, you know. And it's just about like the exercise of the space. And it doesn't have to be like this quick paced thing. A lot of it is very, very slow. And that's part of it as well.
Which you're in a world that's meant to speed everything up. That's the funny part too. Like, is you have like you're taught that this innovation gets rid of the mundanity. You know, you're taught that like, oh, you spent all this time, you know, doing this. Instead, you could push a button and it happens faster. And it's like, well, no, it doesn't. It actually creates a more awkward sound because you pushed a button and then there's no more human mechanism that happens. You still have to wait for that guy to walk down the hallway. Like, he doesn't, you know, maybe in 40 years he'll have a Segway and he'll get there faster. You know, like it's just that's like what you're hoping for, and it just requires more innovation because then that becomes boring. There's less human interaction too, so it's like you're not going to talk to the doorman. Where in the past you probably would have a fun conversation waiting for the guy to get there, but you're kind of taught that like all of this stuff does the talking for you. And I'll be damned if that's not true nowadays. You know, like I'm not a huge small talk guy, despite how much I talk on a microphone. I'm not like a massive small talk guy, but there are moments where it's like, man, if we could just have like a cool conversation for a minute, that would take away this like this perpetual waiting room experience. And nowadays it's like, no, did you check in on the portal? Okay, check in on the portal. We'll buzz you in and then come back in. Like when you're, you know, the patient portal at the doctor's office or all of these things, you know, I won't say it's like this like Reddit-y like Simpsons predicted it thing with Tati. No, he just saw the tone of something change with innovation, you know.
Yeah, I mean, the one of the nice things about Tativille is it is kind of strangely open to everybody. Like you can just kind of wander around through buildings and stuff. I guess it's, you know, it makes sense that the commercial showroom is like open to the public or whatever. I think that's like the big main building that we see. They all kind of blur together. To be honest, like but it's not, I like the idea of just walking through a city, but like not even just the streets, but just kind of drifting through buildings like that.
And it's funny, man. It's funny. The people that are you know, when you figure out how this movie was made and hear about it and stuff, and you hear, you know, Tati was taking so much time with this, and the cultural minister or minister of culture or something in France is coming there because it was really expensive to shoot this on 70 millimeter in Technicolor. It was like really expensive, and you always hear from directors like when that camera turns on, that's the most expensive part. So make sure you do everything before the camera's on, because that's really what burns the money. And you know, they got to the point where the minister of culture or whoever was working for him would like take the lens off the camera. Like they're like, you're not, this is a failure. Like this is this is a failure. And it was a failure. It's just I'm obsessed with these, you know, and we love to like just having your idea, you know, and being correct about what you're saying and still being joyful, minimal cynicism, if at all, and commenting on something that's really happening in society, especially with like something with a city that's so known for its culture, like Paris, all around the world. And just having that fail, man. It's like, and then, you know, you want it, his concession prize for all of this was like, oh, Tativille, the set, we'll keep it up and we'll turn it into like a film school or an art school or something like that. And they're like, we're going to turn this into a highway. We're actually going to bulldoze the entire thing. And I got sad. I saw like a little footage of like the place getting bulldozed, and I got sad.
Yeah. Two Peru songs that kind of resonate with this for me. The inevitable Peru mention is the song Breath from Cloudland, which is all about like places being torn down and bulldozed and being replaced with parking lots. And then also like We Have the Technology, which is the last track from the Tenement Year.
Great song.
Yeah. You guys know that?
I mean, you sent it to me on.
Oh, yeah.
We just listened to it for this.
I did not before we talked.
Right.
It has those same dial tone, like kind of almost like dial tone, arbitrary like wiring noises that are like sound like they're literally from the movie too.
You know, we need the Tony Hawk Tativille level with the Peru soundtrack, dude.
I've already like thought about for the episode art, we got to just put the skate letters and scatter them all around like a big wide shot.
Oh hell yeah, man!
Put a secret tape. Yeah, we got to do that. No, you're right, and I mean, you know, this is probably too on the nose for a comparison, but we did do this group on Bistro Californium, your show. Kraftwerk, dude. I mean, how do you not?
No, absolutely.
Like the space and like Kraftwerk is kind of boring. You know, like it's like where you'll hear the same sequence over and over and over again. That's by design. That's meant for you to sit there and think about how boring it is. And
did we bring up Playtime?
I don't think so.
Episode?
Maybe we did, but not to a huge degree. But it's very much just that very much like you push one button, this sequence gets started. Now, what are we gonna do during the sequence? Well, I don't know. We're just gonna sit there and let the sequence take place. Yeah, just kind of that tone and that pacing and tempo.
The drugstore as well has that particular kind of like Trans Europe Express glamour to it as well. That
Traffic too, and then you go to your next film. Traffic is very, you know, Kraftwerkian. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, Traffic is like the krautrock.
It is.
Because that's when you have all like the hippies coming in, or there were all these like long haired men everywhere.
Yeah,
gloomily smoking cigarettes.
I know, man. It's it's true. No, so yeah, you know, and I will say, like, we didn't talk a lot about Mon Oncle. It's kind of Playtime is is what it all leads to and what it all descends from later. Like even after Playtime, it's all kind of like almost lamenting that Playtime didn't work. You watch Traffic, there's not nearly, in my opinion, as happy of a tone of the film in Traffic. And
Traffic is I found Traffic that was probably my least favorite of all of them.
It's not that good. Yeah, it's not very good.
I wanted Cliff Booth from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood to kill all of the hippies in it, especially when they like trick the woman into thinking that her dog's been run over. I was that's me. You you prick! You need to be stomped to death by Cliff Booth.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm with you. And you have but like Mon Oncle is really good too, because like you again, it's a preview. It's a preview to what Playtime is going to become. It's if we took this house and copy and pasted it, if we roller coaster tycoon to the Mon Oncle house and just put it all over what we would think is Paris. And that is a good one too, because like you get these reminders, and instead, you know, you have the nephew, the child, who's this constant reminder of like, you know, what we're taking away, the kind of like youthful playfulness, like the kind
The
of
house that Monsieur Hulot lives in, or kind of apartment building in Mononcle, is amazing as well.
It's great.
Like,
It's great.
that's another kind of like children's picture book house where
Yes.
it has all these like little windows that you can see him moving through, and little balconies, and like, it's so cool. It's so awesome.
Oh gosh, I know. And so like to everybody, you know, like if you're the first time you watch Playtime, you're gonna get locked in, right? You're gonna get locked in because you're gonna be like, wow, I just haven't really seen anything like this before. Every subsequent time that you watch it, if you're a fan and want to do that, you're gonna instinctively multitask while it happens. Like it's just, I just, to me personally, like, and I still absorb everything and love it and get locked in on certain scenes, but it just becomes this like soundtrack movie to like my day when I'm working on something. If I'm putting an episode out or something, I'll just slide that disc in, and it's really nice, and it's fun. It's a fun movie to just hop in certain parts of. And like I said, it cheers me up. I watch it cheers me up. Like it just, it's fun. It's bright. I mean, it aesthetically, I'm not sure it gets any better. In terms of film, I'm definitely not an expert on that. The sound is pleasing too. There's a lot of ASMR kind of like sound stuff happening in there.
Like this kind of love that he has of like there's a bit of that kind of like Peru Alan Ravenstein beeping and blooping kind of thing, but also like a lot of just like like ASMR, like paper rustling on desks, and just kind of like thumps and thuds and bangs, you know, of like doors closing and stuff, making these like hollow resonant sounds. That's a very enjoyable part of like the texture of Tati's films.
There's a lot of what was it, the other one too? I was thinking, I had another thought on that, but I guess it's escaping me right now. But I really love just the playfulness of the film. Really, like it's just like you know, from that first scene, and like I said, each viewing you can focus on something else, and like you said, you might be watching something that nothing happens to. Like he is playing with the viewer's mind. He tried to expand the medium of what he was doing to a fault. I mean, because it's we're talking about 1967 again, that all this is happening. And like if this was shot even like 10 years earlier, I think maybe it's more of a success, and perhaps gets more of the love. But again, movies were becoming something else. In fact, it's kind of poetic for his movie. It's like it's trying to exist in a world that's innovated beyond your service to it.
Did you see Monsieur Hulot's Holiday?
I did. Yeah, I did. It's enjoyable. Yeah.
That one, I really love that. Like that one is kind of like the vision of pre-Playtime France.
It is.
Where it's like this little seaside resort, and it's in black and white. And there are no hippies, because like the cool intellectual thing is to be into like what's the name? Like Lady in Satin, Billie Holiday. You know. But that's really like charming, because it's kind of, you just see these like it's just this like vision of society where there are like elderly people, young couples, children, but they all kind of very visibly belong to like the same society and still like interact. And again, those scenes of like the hotel lobby where everybody's like sitting at their table playing bridge and stuff, it's like it's on so much smaller of a scale than Playtime, but it's that same kind of like endless detail that you can kind of like feast on. And it also feels like those kind of Osborne puzzle books, like you know, you can see what everybody's doing at their like individual table.
Exactly.
I found that one really, really charming.
That one's really good. And I watched a few of his shorts. Again, I appreciate them more than I actually enjoy them. But like it all kind of leads up and Descends from Playtime. Like that is like we're watching kind of a tragedy, like kind of a tragic story of a guy, sadly. Like and
The
yeah.
Jaques Tati thing that is happening to me as we do this is that occasionally like the audio is coming out loud and I have to like jiggle my headphone jack to like, as like a
That is funny. Yeah, exactly. It's just like, yeah, we all go through those little moments, you know, and it's just it's great. So
it does like inflect you as you go about your day. Like
yeah.
if you like open a fridge and then have to like move out the way of the door or something, you feel like Mr. Hulo.
Yeah, poorly constructed houses, or like just like all of the, or like people trying to jam too many things into like a small space, or vice versa, people with these big empty spaces where there's just nothing. And I can't say enough about it. It's definitely a comfort film for me. And you know, like I said, his story adds to it, but you don't have to know anything about him to appreciate the film. So it is really nice. So any final thoughts about anything we guys were talking about today, guys?
I wanted to just talk a little bit about the like Tati influence on David Lynch.
Oh sure, yeah,
let's go.
Because I think I don't have the quotes to hand, but I think Lynch has spoken about being influenced by Tati.
Yes, when he was, I think they were on set. I can't remember what it was, but somebody told him to watch Monsieur Hulot's Holiday or something. Right? Was that the story you're talking about? Because I thought
it's something like that. Yeah, like but it's interesting to see those kind of traces of like Tati, and especially because like Lynch has such a creepy reputation.
Yeah,
his films do, like compared to Tati, but like I think you can really see it, and especially like Twin Peaks: The Return.
Twin Peaks. All those airy moments of nothing in Twin Peaks where it's just people staring at each other and conversations that don't go anywhere. Those are totally Tati.
Yeah. The scene in The Return where like Cooper is making pancakes to Take 5 by Dave Brubeck feels very Tati. And then also when he's in the like casino, and he keeps going like hello.
Oh yeah, Dougie Jones in the casino.
Dougie Jones in the casino, but I was also like in the product fair or whatever, there's that sign that says like slam your door in golden silence.
Oh yeah.
And I've just been rewatching like Twin Peaks with my family, and you know, everybody had a good chuckle at like Nadine's obsession with like silent drapes.
Yeah, that's right.
I was wondering if that was like a little nod.
Cool. No, it has to be that, because you're right. I've seen there's like a clip on YouTube of David Lynch talking about his like genesis with, I forget what set he was on, but one guy on set told him to watch Monsieur Hulot's Holiday, and he was kind of just like, wow, this is crazy. And I mean, look, man, David Lynch, he's another guy. Everything's intentional. Like it's not. He's not just putting something there to put it, even if he doesn't explain why. You just have, you know, that he knows why it's there. And yeah, that's a great call. Yeah, there's a lot of, I mean, you know, Monty Python, totally. I mean, Terry Jones loves Tati, and I would imagine some of the other people of the group. There's just a lot of that. Monty Python just adds more of a dialogue element to some of the Tati situation.
John Wick movies kind of remind me of Jaques Tati.
John Wick.
Interesting. Yeah.
Because they're also just about like, you know, playing with the environment in a certain way.
I see.
Yeah.
And I remember when I saw John Wick 4 in the cinema, which has like a really great fight scene, like in a sort of rotating circle of traffic around the Arc de Triomphe in Paris. I was like, oh, that's like the end of Playtime, where all the cars are like driving around that one fountain.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. So, well, yeah, guys, I mean, that's I feel good. This is a movie I've wanted to cover for a long time. It's something that again, I really enjoy. I thought I'd have trouble putting it into words. It doesn't seem to be the case. Yeah, so what's coming up on Bistro California, dude?
Oh man, so I've got my 100th episode coming up.
Nice. Congrats. Yeah.
I'm very excited about that. I need to record the second half of it because the topics were just like too big to fit into one meeting.
Yeah.
And then after that, we'll be getting on to season 2, and I'm very, very excited about that. I'm recording the first new episodes of that this weekend.
Cool.
On Saturday and Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
Very, very excited. I've also got like as always, I have my usual backlog of episodes that are waiting to come out, which are kind of going to become part of season 2 by default. Yeah, I mean, the kind of goal for this year is to do a lot more reading and do a lot more book episodes. So I'm excited about that. And yeah, there's going to be, I don't want to, when is this coming out?
Like tomorrow, probably.
Oh yeah. Okay, well, I don't want to spoil too much, but I'm very, very excited about it. I've got a whole kind of like aesthetic rebrand coming. So yeah,
Nice.
big plans for season 2.
Right on.
Very, very cool. So yeah, everybody go check out Bistro Californium. I've been on it, Sai's been on it, we've been on it together. It's very, very good. Lots of great topics covered on there, and really well produced too. So it's
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. No, like I said, like you put in the time. I know you put in the time because you can hear it. You record like auxiliary stuff for the episodes. It's a production. It's not just pressing play and then putting it out, which there's nothing wrong with that either. But it's just it's worth it, guys. Go check it out on Patreon. And like I said, if this is your first time hearing Yeerk on this show, he's been on before. We on the free feed we covered Ivan Reitman's Evolution, which is underrated as hell. People still haven't seen that movie, and it's really good. And then on our premium feed, he's on the Kurt Vonnegut Slaughterhouse 5 Gain of Fiction and Peter Gabriel episode, which that was a long time ago, but that episode rules. So shout out to that. And like I said, everybody go to rarecandy.substack.com. We have 2 subscription options there. We'd love it if you guys would subscribe for free. And then, like I said, if you want to toss us some money, there's over 130 episodes in the backlog there. So you will definitely and they're not time sensitive either. It's we're just about to release Gain of Fiction number 50, which is going to be Michel Houellebecq's Serotonin, which was a really fun conversation. Shout out to the Well Book Club that we have in the Rare Candy Discord. And on that note, guys, oh yes, and I must say I have to plug. I did it on the paid feed, but I want to say Adam Hunley's story Down Leatherwood is available for free. Everybody can check it out. It's a short story on our Substack. So rarecandy.substack.com. Great work of fiction there. So everyone go check that out. And on that note, guys, everybody have a safe week. We will catch you guys next